So we're getting into week 7. It's coming to a close. Look at this fully feathered out. Sorry. Fully feathered out, big broiler. That's chicken right there. I'm gonna put her down. So the birds are sizing up really nicely. I've had my few genetic anomalies. They're a good size. Everybody looks healthy. The birds look pretty clean, which means they're preening themselves, which is a sign of being healthy. And in general, we're doing all right. Even the naked birds are starting to put on a few feathers. The nights are getting cooler. And during the summer, the naked birds didn't put on as many feathers. We're getting into the fall. We're in autumn now. And the naked birds are going, ooh, it's a little chillier at night. Let me grow out some feathers. Growing out some feathers may decrease their final size a little bit, but I'd rather have the birds be comfortable. I'm not going to push them too hard. But yeah, let's get into this week and we'll talk about what it's like to be a chicken farmer. So I'm in a canoe. What does a canoe have to do with chicken farming? Well, I did some stuff that had nothing to do with chicken farming. I did some traveling. Over those course of those few days, the footage that I took just wasn't any good, and it was hard to take it because like people were on the train and they're trying to be quiet and like read their books. And I don't want to be that guy sitting there talking to a video camera and everybody's grumpy and I'll never be able to like hold a thought. So I took the canoe out for a heartfelt section that I typically do on my channel. It's one of my mentors, Troy Bishop, the Grass Whisperer, one of his favorite segments because I'm in a canoe and I kind of bear it all to you guys. So I want to talk for a second about how I am secretly the richest man in the world. That's right. So how am I the richest man in the world? Well, I don't make a lot of money, and that's fine, and we'll talk about that. But with that not a lot of money, I have the best lifestyle ever. I have the most important thing, 3 meals a day, 3 meals a day with my family. I see my wife and my daughter every day. I get to work hand in hand with my wife. My daughter is going to a great school, and every morning, noon, and night, I get to eat with them, and that is incredible. Speaking of eating, pretty much all my food comes within a 20-mile radius. When you're a farmer, if you choose this lifestyle, and you redefine what wealth is for you, you'll make a lot of friends who see things the same way that you do. You become the sum of the people that you surround yourself with most. So if you are in an office atmosphere and everybody's grumpy and cranky and won't do anything, and you surround yourself with those people constantly, then that's who you're gonna be. If you're a farmer and you wanna make a change in the world and you surround yourself with good people who are producing good food, then that is who you're gonna become in life. And that's who I'm striving to be, is someone who's doing something good and just producing food and having a really good time. So while we produce chicken, pork, some of our vegetables, hops, we make beer on our farm, I don't produce everything because that would be crazy. Producing everything by yourself on your farm is a crazy idea. Although having friends who produce the things that you can't or that you shouldn't, because then you'll get overtaxed or things will just go poorly, like beef, like vegetables, like honey, like fruit. I'm learning how to grow some of that stuff, but I have really good friends who raise beef, who have a raw milk dairy. I don't ever want to milk anything. It's just not in me. I don't think I'm that strong of a person. Hats off to dairy farmers everywhere. But all my food comes locally. All these farm-to-table dinners that people have in big cities, 5-star chefs, that's like dinner at my house all the time. It's really good. And that's the lifestyle that farming can afford to you if you, take some sacrifice and it really takes a shift of how you see the world. So what I've hoped to accomplish through this video series and through my YouTube channel and Farm Marketing Solutions is to help start you down a paradigm shift, changing the way you perceive wealth. With farming, it's not just the everyday tasks that are great, it's the entire lifestyle, which I guess is the everyday task. That with that perception of wealth to me, I'm sitting in a canoe on a pond on a gorgeous day. I eat really well and I have a lot of fun growing the things that I grow. Sure, there's a lot of stress. Sure, I haven't bought new pants in several years. I'm just you wear your clothes out till they're threadbare. But there's certain things that just don't matter to me anymore. Like I don't have cable television. I do have the internet. It's an important thing. I do stuff on the internet. But you change the way you see the world and you'll start to see that brand new pair of sneakers or this brand new this or the brand new car just don't hold any value. I just don't care. And yeah, once you start to wrap your mind around that fact that you live a little bit more simply, but you're way more fulfilled, farming will fit in just perfectly if that's the way you decide to go. So that's happened to me. That's how I'm a wealthy guy. Let's talk about my trip real quick, being a wealthy guy. I went out to Yakima Valley, which is in the northwest United States, in outside of Seattle, we'll say, about half an hour by the crow flies. And Yakima Valley produces about 77% of the hops in the United States. And because we have a brewery and I'm a hop farmer, I got flown out by our distributor on behalf of our brewers to go smell hop flowers for a day and visit a hop farm. That's about as detailed as I'm going to get because it's kind of off topic for this video. I don't even know if I'll include this in, but we'll just say that it was surreal. It was good, really, really good. So, I mean, even though I was doing something a little off message, but you know, it's because it's part of my holistic goal of my farm that we're managing a farm, a brewery, and a distillery. And as that farmer, I have to be nimble enough to live in those worlds as well and talk to those people and have these different conversations. Once you speak the language of food, it's a universal language. Everybody knows somebody who was a farmer. If that wasn't directly in their family, it was a friend of theirs. And what I feel is my responsibility is that I've been offered all these opportunities, like being flown out by a major distributor, discussing things with all these new people, having farm marketing solutions, having a really good setup on my farm, is leveraging those opportunities to then continue the conversation about agriculture with everyday people who may not know what a chicken looks like, or where an egg comes from, or where an eggplant comes from, or how, you know, what a potato looks like when it comes out of the ground, or how you properly process grass-fed beef. You know, all these things that I now am able to do on a regular basis, I'm able to then share forward with people and get them started and interested in agriculture. And that fulfills me in a way that is just super incredible, awesome, crazy good. So the mission statement of Farm Marketing Solutions is to inspire and educate the next generation of farmers. And that next generation of farmers takes all shapes and sizes. I have a brewery which draws people in, and I get people all walks and ages of life, from little kids who get to hold baby chicks for the first time and realize that baby chicks can be cute and fluffy and amazing, to people who buy vegetables from my farm stand, to people who come to my CSA and then buy from other farmers, or, you know, anybody I come in contact with. I want to get interested and excited about agriculture in some way, even if it just means that they're going to buy more chickens in the future. I'm going to theme this around chickens because it's a chicken video. So with the next generation of farmers coming up, we have to stand on the shoulders of giants. We have to think of, all right, this is the way it's been done so far. How can we change that going forward? And there's amazing thought leaders in the space who have published books and articles and videos and how-to DVDs and have excellent websites, or have started organizations, because for me, sustainability is not enough. We're not going far enough, because when you get into this lifestyle, when you see how fulfilling it can be, and when you slow down for a second and sit in a canoe and think about what you do on a regular basis, you realize that the Cornish cross chickens that I'm raising have been selectively bred throughout the years to live in a barn and grow really fast and be propped up by antibiotics and drugs. And while that's what the market wants right now, let's search for a better way to do it. I think the chicken tractor is great. I find it's a great way to manage broilers, and you can also use those chicken tractors for day range models and let your birds out and forage more and have pastured poultry netting, which then your birds are more free and have more grass, and maybe you experiment with birds that forage better, like the Freedom Rangers, the Red Rangers, that they're slower growing, so the industry doesn't like them. The meat quality is a little bit different. They have a more narrow breast, but maybe that's the future. Maybe it's a different breed of chicken. And what I'm hoping that you get out of the series is an introduction to chickens. I hope what you get out of the materials that I have is an introduction. You get more used to it. You sign on to things like APA, that organization that I keep recommending because they help me out on a consistent basis. But as I look at the anomalies that happen within the Cornish cross, and even in this video series, it's made me take a deeper look, that we have birds who are so genetically defective that sudden death syndrome is an inexplicable thing that just happens because of their genes. It just happens. They just keel over and die. You can do everything right. You can balance their feed, get their feed tested. You can have them live out on pasture. They can live healthy lives. And then all of a sudden they just croak and die. For me, that any mortality on chickens, while having zero mortality is a lofty goal, any mortality is bad, and we should find a way to just not accept it, to be regenerative. So my goal, your goal, should be that sustainability should be the new bottom tier, and we should work towards regenerative agriculture. What breeds can we raise? What experiments can we do in the future And how can we adjust our lifestyles, our paradigms, how we see the world and how we perceive wealth to then make the world a better place. Diego on Permaculture Voices says this all the time on his podcast: be the change that you want to see in the world. Your support of Farm Marketing Solutions helps me then continue this work where I'm talking to you about it. I'm doing my own research projects. So I appreciate that from you guys. And really what I want is for you to go out and try to do, to make things happen. So with a little heartfelt discussion from the canoe, let's head back on the land and I'll catch you up on where the broilers are at and what the rest of this week looks like and what the rest of the project looks like. So the footage that I shot when I was away turned out to be garbage, so I had to make up for it, and I hope you guys didn't mind the canoe segment that I just did to kind of make up for those days. But nothing huge happened, but I want to catch you up on where the birds are now and where their consumption has been to date. So there's one chicken tractor out here in the field. They probably ate about 50 pounds of feed in the brooder, and to date they've ate 150 pounds, so 200 pounds total out here in the field. Just my homestead tractor. There's the swing set behind me. There's a chicken tractor. I had one bird die of SDS, sudden death syndrome, which is the unexplainable heart attack that happens to these Cornish cross broilers. The birds flop over on their back, they start to spasm. It's a terrible thing, and it hasn't been scientifically explained yet. There's a couple theories out there, but the research that I've read so far, nobody really knows. It's just the fact that these birds are so messed up, but we just discussed the messed up birds. The other ones, the two tiny birds, I did put down because they were starting to get beat up by the old ones, and they never grow up, and I entered into a Apple forum and I entered my question and asked other growers what they had thought, and some people keep them on as pets, some people put them down right away, but nobody really has a use for these tiny birds that just never grow big. So I've lost 3 birds total. 2 of them were tiny birds, which I might not have had if I was raising this small of a batch, but with it almost 300 birds, I did get 2 tiny birds. And then 1 SDS bird, because the bird got big, had a heart attack and died. So about 200 pounds of feed so far. 3 dead birds, which is terrible, but I don't know. Let's go over to the field and I'll catch you up on where they're at right now. So I'm out here with the batch of 240. The 8 chicken tractors were roughly 30 birds per. Over the last couple days, we did have a few losses. One of the birds had gotten, they're like, you know, listening to me talk right now. They're running around. One of the birds had gotten rolled over when the chicken tractor was moving. Sometimes these birds get really lazy and they just kind of lay down and let the chicken tractor roll over them. If you're not really careful, that can happen. It's super rare. I had some extra help while I was away, and these things happen. It's terrible, but you know, it is what it is. I also had 1 SDS bird in this chicken tractor as well, sudden death syndrome. No good, but it's affecting how I'm gonna do my management going forward. We also put out another 300 pounds of feed. Total, it's a whole ton of feed. I'm gonna add it up off camera and get back to you probably tomorrow or the day after on the total feed consumption per this batch to date. But it's a bunch. So without further ado, let's just go on to Monday. Let's catch up. I'm done with these traveling days. I'm happy to be home and happy and excited to just get back into my routine, and let's go do it. So it's Monday. I've had some time to assess, some time to look at how everything is going, and so far it's all right. My mortality is about 5% for the entire batch, so even though I feel like I talk about it all the time, it is only about 5%. It's still not great, and the goal long term is 0% mortality, but considering that the industry standard, from everybody that tells me what the industry standard is 10%, I'm still below that. I'm going to try to stay below that. There's things that I can't account for, and such is the case. So I looked at the tracking sheet and did some math, as I promised you guys I would do. In the field, the birds, including the brooder in the field on this batch of birds, because it was all on one tracking sheet, that was 2,650 pounds. So if you add in the 150 pounds from the homestead batch, that's roughly 2,800 pounds. Accounting for loss, it's about 10.75 or 10 3/4 pounds of feed per bird to date. So a lot of feed, over a ton of feed, maybe a ton and a half. They have a week and a half left, and in that week and a half they're going to eat a whole bunch of food. I'll let you guys know what the final numbers are. We're going to share the spreadsheet at the end of this journey. Really excited. I love sharing things with you guys, and yeah, we'll see how it goes from there. Now let's get on. I want to answer a few YouTube questions before we go on to Tuesday. So I got 4 questions that I want to try to answer quick. Brian Philbook, who has been very attentive to the YouTube comments. Thank you, Brian, for being a continual poster. Brian asked, growing fodder for your chickens, like have I ever considered growing grains to run in front of the chickens to have the chickens walk over them to then lower my feed costs? Well, there's a number of reasons why I don't want to do that. One, the timing would have to be so specific that to be able to manage that, I would have to know a lot more about growing grains and growing a balanced feed ration, and I don't have the time, the energy, or the expertise yet to try and do that. You can plant specific pasture mixes, which are good for chickens, and Fertrell has done some studies on that. I know I have a study somewhere that I'll try and share in the notes for this, or maybe on that page that I have everything, collaborative on. So there are different feeds that you can grow, but as far as growing grain, chickens like 2 to 3 inches, soft tender shoots of grass. They're really loving the lawn, the pasture. The longer it gets, the more they just walk over the grass and it becomes more of a mat versus that manure getting down to the ground. So if you figure like barley gets 2-3 feet tall, they're gonna walk over that and they might not necessarily eat all those seed heads, and the ground and the forage is not gonna be as good for them. They like the leafy green stuff, like the grass. They like grass. So I like to provide more of that. I haven't done an experience myself with growing fodder, but maybe in the future. For now, I'm gonna go to that Fertrell study. Kristen Whitworth wanted me to talk more about the skunk problem I had. So the skunk problem I had and the skunks getting and digging underneath, the only time I've ever had a problem with something trying to dig underneath is when I left the back wheels on. So those chicken tractors over on the other side of the farm, we had left the back wheels on because you get lazy, or if you have people working with you that are lazy and don't take the wheels off, you have a gap along the bottom of the tractor. And it wasn't so much that the skunk was able to dig underneath and be able to reach chickens, because if you think about like a surface like this, it's got to go down and then back up and be able to reach something. So it would have to dig a pretty significant hole to be able to get in and underneath that. And so far, nothing has been able to. And the only reason we had some skunk issues is because the wheels were on, and instead of it sitting flat on the ground, it sat at a pitch like that, and that skunk was able to get its dirty, grubby paws under there. Since we've banned anybody who would allow to have the wheels on, and we take the wheels off and we're religious about that, we haven't had anything break in. Other than that, the only time something's been able to get in one of these chicken tractors is because I had that 1-inch mesh instead of the wire cloth, which I recommend in the new copy of the book. The tighter hardware cloth with 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch squares won't allow anything to get its grubby paws in there, and the chickens will stay a lot safer. Melly Malo Farm asked about my feeding regimen. How often do I feed the birds? Typically once a day. And I keep, this comes into observation with how many birds you have in there, how much your feeder space you have, and how much birds they're consuming on a regular basis. Typically for the last 2.5 weeks, I do a double feeding where there's maybe half a trough left at the end of the day, and I give them a little bit more, and I do full feed throughout the entire thing. I haven't had a big difference in my mortalities. I've done experiments with this between full feeding and partial feeding, where you restrict feed. I don't like the partial feeding because the birds are frantic and they scratch each other and trying to get at the feed. And with these Cornish cross, if they don't fully feather out and they're climbing over each other, then you get scratches and tears in their skin. That's a place for pathogens to get in. It's ugly when you try to sell the product, and it's just no good all around. It's something that causes pain to the chicken. So I do full feed. And I'll do two feedings a day based on the observation. If it's a hotter day, maybe they don't eat as much and I don't do a full feed. But typically I'll feed them twice a day. As they get larger, we're talking like the last 2 weeks of their lifespan, so that they have full feed, so they're a little bit more relaxed in the morning, and then we just do those moves and it's good. So they're typically moved and fed in the morning. Usually they're good throughout the day. As they get older, feed them twice. And then the last one, Delicia Space said, do you give your chickens light? I do not add any supplemental light in with my chickens. We only raise the pastured broilers seasonally during the summer when the days are typically longer. That light, the sunshine, stimulates the pituitary gland, which triggers growth. When there's lower light, they don't have that stimulation. They don't grow as much. It's why egg layers don't grow as much in the winter. It was temperature and light. If you give egg layers supplemental light, they'll grow, they'll make more eggs in the winter, but you are pushing the birds and not giving them a chance to rest. And that gets into a whole conversation about ethics, which I don't think we're going to do in this video. But for the broilers, they're outside. I would have to run an electrical cord. I would have to have sockets and bulbs in every single chicken tractor. And for me, that's just not natural, and it's not something I do. And it's not worth the extra grow out to me to justify pushing these birds to the limit. They're already kind of growing fast because they're Cornish cross, and it's just something I never even considered with broilers. So those are the questions for today. Let's head on tomorrow, wrap this week up. It's pretty awesome. Then we're going on to the last week that these guys are gonna be alive. So we're getting to the end of week 7, and quite frankly, it's been a whirlwind for me. My brain is fried a little bit, but you know, we carry on, we keep moving. So before I get and wrap up the end of the video, I wanted to answer some YouTube questions really quick. Had some good ones, and just wanted to, you know, throw this in here towards the end of the video. Zombie Robbie asked, how many square feet per chicken tractor, how much does each chicken tractor take up space-wise on your pasture? So if you figure on an average in the brooder, they're in there for 3 weeks, that's 21 days. It's a 56-day bird. So for 35 days, or 5 weeks times 7, they're out here on pasture. Each of these chicken tractors, which chicken tractors vary by size, I'm gonna talk about mine because they're the ones that I use, but you know, it's just math. So 35 days times 60 square feet, that is, I did the math, 2,100 square feet per chicken tractor per rotation of birds in it. So 2,100 square feet, 2,000 square feet, not a ton of space. And I've been doing the birds in the lawn, you know, moving the birds around in the lawn in the front yard. I've had plenty of space. I do whatever I want. I don't make really clean lines because I just go for the good bunches of grass to feed the birds. For the chicken tractors that are side by side, there's 8 of these in a row here. I don't know if it makes sense, but to move the camera, but 8 in a row, so that's 8 times 2,100. So for that, it's 16,800 square feet per move on these birds for a full production batch. And I did the math, that's 0.4 acres. So if an acre is 43,560 feet, right? Yeah, 43,560. Troy Bishop's rolling his eyes right now at my grass calculations here. So each batch of birds is less than half an acre. So if you figure a couple acres, you can do a lot more birds. He also asked, how long do I go in between rotations? I have enough land, and it's so low impact on the land that I often don't run over the same area of land twice in 1 year. If you were gonna do that, I would space them out as far as possible, gives the ground some time to absorb that nitrogen and just recover from the impact of the birds. But in general, on my farm, on my situation, I don't cover the same area ground twice in 1 year unless I have to, and then I only do that one area ground twice in that 1 year, and I might not do that the next year. The other comment was from HL Hadish, and he said, more hand gestures, more hand gestures. So it was an awesome week. I really love it. I love making these videos for you guys. I got some wise words to wrap this video up in, and then we're on to final week, processing week. We're gonna get these birds processed. We're gonna get them in the freezer. We're gonna get them into the customer's hands. We're gonna get some into my oven. This will carry on. I'm actually thinking that week 8 is not going to be enough of a video, so we might have week 9 and week 10 just to wrap up and go over the spreadsheets and everything else we need. But until then, let's go on to the finalness of this video. So that's my house, like right back there. My office window overlooks the pond that I'm sitting in right now, which is way, way fun. And as I just said, I'm the wealthiest man around. And it didn't happen overnight. One of my favorite quotes is, every overnight success is 10 years in the making. I'm about 7 years in. I started in 2009. I started my blog about food, the foodcyclist.com blog, which is now defunct. And over those last 7 years, I've biked across the country. I biked all over the Northeast. We went from New York City to Seattle to San Diego by bicycle for a year, living on farms and breweries along the way. Came back to Connecticut, apprenticed on a farm, started my own farm, got involved with these guys. I'm several years into Camps Road Farm in the food cycle. And it has taken me a long time. I have several years of podcasting, videos, everything. So getting here, not easy. It took a long time going forward. I have a lot of ideas, and it's going to take a lot more hard work, sacrifice, and dedication, but I have a wonderful support system. I have a wonderful family. I have a great community. I have great community supported agriculture with my CSA and my CSA members and the people who surround my life and my farm. So I'm a very lucky guy, and I've gotten here because I've sacrificed a whole bunch of stuff. I've lived some crazy, crazy lives in the past decade, and I will continue to do that going forward with your help. Thanks for taking the time to watch the series. Thanks for buying the book. For those of you who bought the book, thank you for helping me live the dream and play the long game of hopefully changing the world, having more people grow chickens on grass and have more people the opportunity to really experience what farm life can be like. Stay tuned for the next video in this series. Thanks for watching. If you haven't yet, subscribe. If you have done that but you haven't told a friend, go out and tell a friend. What's wrong with you? Share the news, share the love. Until next week, see you guys later.